So we had to rewrite this history, and I think that was the part that in which we were quite successful by also because I think scholarship is two things. Scholarship is theory and writing and thinking, but it is also organizing and practice.
And in that phase, Gijs, you are much better than I. You organized a lot, and you had a very strong impact on the organizing not just contacts between scholars, but in organizing a new type of mobility history by introducing new types of discussion, for example.
Yes, yes.
I always fought alone for me, and in leaving the museum, I recognized that I'm not the type to organize. I'm the type to write, to think about it, and probably to give them to give people ideas.
Yes.
So this is what I.
But at the same time, Kurt, I think that I am a bit disappointed by the T2M was a success in that sense that it was a platform for exchange and so on. But what I miss in the history of mobility up to now is debate. I mean, I don't know why, but I would like, for instance, this book. Is provocatively written, and I hope that people will, attack it.
Definitely.
But it doesn't happen, and I don't know why. We don't have a tradition of debate.
It's a academic tradition. Debate is there, but for example, the editors of journals are quite reluctant
to attack each other.
To attack. And there is
that's not only German.
There is no format in the journals for this.
Yeah.
What we would expect, a sort of reply and counter reply, this is not liked by editors at all. You are disappointed with that. I'm disappointed with another factor. I'm disappointed by museums.
By
museums.
Yeah.
Museums of the history of technology proposed a different type of history of technology.
Of handling technology.
And they probably proposed a switch over from object-centered
to contextualize.
Not even to contextualize, but to present contexts and use the objects for illustrating history of technology, social history of cities, history of military, for example. And this switch was not done properly, and I had the impression that this was abandoned about past 2000.
So that's a victory of the amateurs again.
Not really. It's a sort of resignation, I think, of museums, of state museums.
Resignation.
Resignation. Claiming defeat, for example. On the other hand, after the year 2000, you had very strong new museums. The new Mercedes-Benz Museum, the Porsche Museum, Volkswagen Autostadt, for example, which were quite successful in proposing their own history. So I think it's not a victory of the amateurs; it's a victory of great car producers, of the companies. They are successful in telling
the models and
they are successful in telling their stories, their own version of stories, and it's history marketing stories which they tell. And this is the success of museums. I'm very skeptical with. I'm not happy at all, because we lost the opportunity in the museums to tell our version of mobility history.
Yeah.
No museum in Germany does it properly, I think.
Yeah, and what I also think that's, so I have been thinking about what did we accomplish as historians of mobility and specialized in automobilism. And I think for me personally, I cannot speak for you, it's two things. Let's see, the first was this toy to tool thesis, the idea that the car was successful after it became a utilitarian tool. And my thesis is exactly the opposite. It was successful because even if it became a kind of tool in commuting, for instance, it continued to provide pleasure and lust and so on. Right. That's the real.
The car which we started with, the car between the wars, is a sort of hybrid car, culturally speaking.
Yeah.
It's a hybrid between utility and adventure. I think it's still there, and you have this tract of this hybrid tract of car history up to now.
Yeah, I would go even one step further. In the book, I propose to analyze the car not as a transport tool, but as a medium.
Yeah.
It's a kind of McLuhanist idea that the car is there, to express things, status and okay. It also brings you from A to B, but that is secondary.
It's a porter of meaning.
Yeah.
It always was from the very beginning onwards, and to explain the success of the car compared with other mobility systems is that I think the strength of this hybrid system. For example, public system, transport system like that, are very weak in this very attractive hybridism.
Yeah, and the second point I think in which we were successful is to argue that this diffusionist idea that the model of automobility was created in the United States, and the rest, in a kind of Rostovian way, should be dealt with, Germany, France, Holland, as a kind of little America, kind of, the model is America.
This is nonsense, of course.
And that's totally nonsense, and I think we accomplished that in a way, because your history of the car in a German way, and me for the rest of Europe, to say, well, the models there were totally different, were different from the American model.
Yeah,
and in that sense, it doesn't make, it doesn't make sense. I have also argued against this, the uptiest time that we read a national history of the car in Australia or Italy or whatever. We should stop that. We should write other histories of automobilism than national stories. We have seen that. Okay, nice.
And I think this is what we both are complementary achieved. You got the car histories in a global, transnational perspective, and I tried to put the car into a mobility history perspective together with other modes of mobility. So and they're all very specific cultures, but very crossover transfers of cultural meanings from small boats, for example, to cars and vice versa.
But there's also one thing that I regret in the way we have been dealing with car history, that is that we have been writing it from the perspective of the driver. And our histories are driver perspectives and not passengers. I mean, what is the name of the psychologist in Germany who has described the feeling of being next to the driver? Schönhammer.
Yeah, Schönhammer. Yeah, die Leiden des Beifahrers.
Das Leiden des Beifahrers.
But on the other hand,
and I think or methodologically, being a passenger, like we were yesterday in the Tesla, makes it possible to connect car travel experience with tramway experience, because we are passengers here. We don't describe this history as a perspective of the driver.
Not at all. Yeah.
Not at all.
But on the other hand,
and to make my point is, writing a history of automobilism from the passenger perspective would be different.
Yeah.
It would be more related to women's experience, or children, or other people who were not regarded as fit to drive.
The family car is not a driver's car.
Yes.
It's a passenger car.
Yeah, indeed.
But on the other,
and it would open the perspective to look into buses, tramways, trains, and so on.
On the other hand, I think around 1900 the passengers were also involved in the driving experience. When you look at the very old cars of the 1890s, the car was driven from the rear seat.
Yes.
So you had the old compartment idea of railways or coaches, and this was quite interesting because the front seat was turned around. The car was driven from the front seat, and every person in the car was participating in the driving experience. I tried to describe it as a Fahrgemeinschaft. So everybody looked in front, not in our position. This is the tramway position primarily, because the old tramways didn't have seats like that. It had opposing seats, like we are seated now. And to turn around this and create a Fahrgemeinschaft, which created also a sort of hybrid experience.
Yes.
You were a sort of passenger.
I agree,
on one
but in
hand.
the second period, between the wars, something special happened, I think, because if you read the travel accounts, the travelogues, also in Germany but also in America, I know of several, I've forgotten the example, the names, but there were some writers who took their families with them on the trip in the car, but then they wrote a travelogue as if they were in the car alone.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention their wives or their family at all.
Yeah, this is quite strange, but
very interesting.
But you can relate this to travel experiences in general. Paul Thoreau reflected this. He said, you read a lot of travelogues from the I perspective, but they took a lot of people with them. Enablers, for example, who arranged tours, interpreters and all that, and they simply didn't mention them.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, when you look at typical experiences, Sentimentale Reise im Automobil, 1889, of course, the travelogue author had a driver.
Yeah.
But he didn't mention the driver.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. He talked about I went there and I went there. Yeah, sure.
I counted it. The driver is mentioned 2 times in 250 pages.
Yeah.
This is also a sort of what do you make of this? I think I would propose an interpretation like that. The travel experience was very attractive, and the Otto Julius Bierbaum wanted to drive, but felt himself unable to do so. And what happened then is he was a sort of creating himself as an imaginary driver.
Yeah.
And afterwards he learned to drive, probably because of this defizitäre Erlebnis.
Yeah.